Welcome to One Chapter, One Thought. I'm Pastor Chris from Lincroft Bible Church in New Jersey, and every weekday I read one chapter of the New Testament and offer one brief devotional thought. Today's reading is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 22. Jesus spoke to them again in parables, saying, "The kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who gave a wedding feast for his son. And he sent out his slaves to call those who had been invited to the wedding feast, but they were unwilling to come. Again, he sent out other slaves, saying, 'Tell those who have been invited, Behold, I've prepared my dinner. My oxen and my fatted livestock are all butchered and everything is ready. Come to the wedding feast.' But they paid no attention and went their way, one to this farm, another to his business, and the rest seized his slaves, and they mistreated them and killed them. But the king was enraged, and he sent his armies and destroyed those murderers and set their city on fire. Then he said to his slaves, 'The wedding is ready, but for those who were invited were not worthy. Go therefore to the main highways, and as many as you find there, invite to the wedding feast.' Those slaves went out into the streets and gathered together all they found, both good and evil. And the wedding hall was filled with dinner guests. But when the king came in to look over the dinner guests, he saw a man who was there not dressed in wedding clothes, and he said to him, 'Friend, how did you come in here without wedding clothes?' And the man was speechless. Then the king said to the servant, 'Bind him hand and foot and throw him into the outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth, for many are called, but few are chosen.' Then the Pharisees went and plotted together how they might trap Jesus in what he said. They sent their disciples to Jesus along with the Herodians, saying, 'Teacher, we know that you are truthful and teach the way of God in truth and defer to no one, for you are not partial to anyone. Tell us then, what do you think? Is it lawful to give a poll tax to Caesar or not?' But Jesus perceived their malice and said, 'Why are you testing me, you hypocrites? Show me the coin used for the poll tax.' And they brought him a denarius. And he said to them, 'Whose likeness and inscription is this?' And they said to him, 'Caesar's.' Then he said to them, 'Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar, and to God the things that are God's.' And hearing this, they were amazed, and leaving him, they went away. On that day, some Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to Jesus and questioned him, asking, 'Teacher, Moses said if a man dies having no children, his brother, as next of kin, will marry his wife and raise up his children for his brother. Now there were 7 brothers with us. The first married and died, and having no children, left his wife to his brother. So also the second and the third, down to the 7th. Last of all, the woman died. In the resurrection, therefore, whose wife of the 7 will she be? For they had all married her.' But Jesus answered and said to them, 'You are mistaken, for not understanding the Scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like angels in heaven. But regarding the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken to you by God? I am the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but of the living.' When the crowds heard this, they were astonished at his teaching. But when the Pharisees heard that Jesus has silenced the Sadducees, they gathered together. One of them, a lawyer, asked him a question, testing him. 'Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law?' And he said to him, 'You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and foremost commandment, and the second is like it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments depend the whole law and the prophets.' Now while the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them a question. 'What do you think about the Christ? Whose son is he?' They said to him, 'The son of David.' He said to them, 'Then how does David in the Spirit call him Lord, saying, "The Lord said to my Lord, sit at my right hand until I put your enemies beneath your feet"? If David then calls him Lord, how is he his son?' No one was able to answer him a word, nor did anyone dare from that day on to ask him another question." One thought. There is again conflict with the Pharisees, and they try to trap Jesus by asking him about paying taxes to Caesar, which is a stand-in for the Roman Empire. The nature of this trap is that if Jesus says, yes, you should pay taxes to Caesar, then the Pharisees can go around slandering Jesus and saying, look, Jesus is a traitor to Israel, to the Jewish people, because he wants you to fund your oppressors. But if Jesus answers no, you don't need to pay taxes to the Roman Empire, then they'll claim that Jesus is an insurrectionist to Rome, and the Roman Empire would come in and destroy Jesus. So how does Jesus answer? Well, he asks for a coin, and in those days, just like much money in our day, has faces on it. And it's usually, like in our money system, it's past presidents or influential people who have deceased. In Caesar's day, they put the current Caesar on the money. And so Jesus gets this coin and he says, okay, whose face is this? And they say Caesar's. And he's like, okay, well, it has his face on it. It's his likeness. It's his inscription. So give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and then give to God what is God's. So in this masterful response, Jesus offers some pretty, I think, profound lessons for us in how we relate to government as Christians. First of all, Jesus sees government as legitimate. Like, I know that's like a very basic point, but I think it's incredibly important that we hold to that. God has instituted government, human governments, even though they're flawed and they are finite, and even though they often will perpetrate injustice in this world, governments aren't perfect, but they are legitimate. And the Apostle Paul makes the same point at the beginning of Romans 13, and Paul presses it even further that we should be submissive to the government. So our natural, default state should not necessarily be revolutionary, but submissive. Now, there are instances when governments become illegitimate because they're perpetuating extreme injustice, but we can't run to that. That's not the general ethos of the Bible or the New Testament. But also, I think this has profound implications for the mission of the church, because Jesus seems largely ambivalent about transforming or overthrowing the Roman Empire. I mean, the Roman Empire, they developed crucifixion, the most humiliating way to die, and the way that Jesus was going to die. And yet Jesus is not like, hey, we need to get Caesar out of there and get our guy in there. Jesus is just like, give to Caesar his thing, give to God his thing, which is, by the way, our whole lives. We live in complete submission to God's will, and let's do our thing, right? The mission is to proclaim the good news of God's kingdom to all people. And we can do that whether we're in the Roman Empire, whether we live in America, whether we live in any other country. The church can be faithful to proclaim the gospel, whether in a largely supportive government or hostile government. We just give to Caesar what is his, and we love God with all of our heart. Faithful Christian living, right? It often means, this side of eternity, living with tensions. And one of the great tensions that we have is being in the world, but not of the world. And part of living in the world is living under human governments. And so we must seek to be faithful, I think, to uphold our responsibilities to our earthly citizenship, while also recognizing at the same time we have a heavenly citizenship. So we shouldn't settle for simplistic answers, but navigate these issues wisely, just like Jesus did.